Anna Gray knew the boundaries. She knew where the trails ended, where the permafrost began, and where humanity ended and Denali began. The Alaskan National Park was more than just a job. It was her skin, her bones. For 34 years, she served as a ranger, and for 34 years, the tundra had taught her, respect is survival. She knew the basic laws. The food law, never feed, never leave anything behind. The trail law, the snow trail is life. Straying is death. And of course the gaze law, a grizzly bear, a moose. Never look them in the eye, lest you provoke a duel of wills. But there was one law not written in the National Park Service brochures. Anna heard it in an old creaking cabin, smelling of smoke and fish, from an Athabascan elder she knew as Old Creek. "Our lands are harsh, Anna," he had said, his eyes like two cracks in the ice looking past her. "But they are honest. If you see something that is perfectly whole where it doesn't belong, never pick it up." "Why, Creek?" "Gold?" The old man laughed, dry as rustling leaves. "No, the tundra gives nothing for free. If an object lies perfectly, it means it was left there. And if it was left, it means it is hunting, Anna." A woman of science and duty, brushed off the mysticism like an annoying mosquito. It happened on Trail 72 during her longest, loneliest patrol. It was mid-November. The polar night had not yet arrived, but the sun clung to the horizon, casting long, ragged shadows on the snow, stained the color of bruises and rust. Anna was on her snowmobile, and her loyal dog, Coyote, a powerful husky wolf mix, ran alongside. Coyote suddenly froze. He didn't bark, didn't whine. He took a stance as if scenting a ghost, his fur bristling. Anna stopped the machine. "What is it, boy?" "A bear," Coyote growled. It wasn't a hunting growl, but a warning, low, guttural sound Anna had heard only a few times in her life. Anna took her rifle and scanned the snowy plain. No tracks, no movement, only the wind kicking up snow dust, and then she saw it, in the middle of the perfectly white, untouched snow where there were no rocks, no trees, no rock outcrops, lay a stone. It was absolutely black, a deep, matte shade that seemed to absorb all light. Most strikingly, it was perfectly smooth, as if polished for thousands of years, not by water or wind, but by complete emptiness. Its shape was close to a perfect oval, without a single crack, chip, or even a scratch. Perfectly whole. Anna, against all her logic, descended from the snowmobile, mesmerized. She approached the stone. It was the size of a grapefruit. Coyote suddenly howled, loudly, painfully. He pulled on his leash and tried to flee in the opposite direction, away from the stone. "Quiet, Coyote." Anna barely recognized her own voice. It was thin and distant. "It's just a rock." She leaned down. The stone was heavy, far heavier than a rock its size should be. Its surface was unbelievably cold, as if it had just arrived from interstellar space. And then Anna remembered Old Creek's words. "Never pick up something that is perfectly whole where it doesn't belong." She hesitated. But curiosity, that first primitive sin of man, won out. Anna picked up the stone. The moment her skin touched its surface, a cold shot through her wrist, like an injection of liquid nitrogen. And she felt a fleeting, sharp sensation, as if someone looked at her through her own eyes. She quickly put it in her backpack and hurried away. Coyote calmed down, but ran tight against the snowmobile the entire way back, his gaze strained and full of guilt. That evening, Anna returned to her outpost. It was a small but cozy log cabin, far from tourist trails. She placed the stone on her workbench, the central spot where her maps, radio and patrol logs lay. The stone lay, black and alien among her familiar, warm belongings. Anna began preparing dinner, and then it struck her. She felt a gaze. It was not an external gaze. It wasn't a wolf, nor a bear outside the window. It was a pressure coming from inside the cabin. She spun around. Nothing. Just the stone on the table. Anna laughed. Sad. Seasonal affective disorder in action, she thought. She sat at the table to make her notes. She reached out to pet Coyote. "Hey, boy," she began, and then she froze. She couldn't remember her dog's name. She knew he had a name she spoke thousands of times a day. It hovered at the tip of her tongue, but she couldn't grasp it. She stared at the dog in panic. He looked back at her, his eyes sad and understanding. "Dog," she said in horror. You're my dog. What's your name?" Coyote walked over and nuzzled her hand. Her gaze fell on the stone. It was just a black oval, but Anna felt a thin, cold thread pulling from it straight to her brain. She hastily checked the radio to contact base, and then she realized the second loss. She had forgotten the call code, 4 digits. The code that was her bread and butter, her life insurance. A blank. She looked at the stone. It was heavy and cold, and she suddenly felt light, as if the density of her own being had diminished. The next 2 days became a silent, slow-motion nightmare. Anna couldn't leave. A blizzard had cut off the paths. She was trapped alone with the stone and her disintegrating mind. Every hour the stone took something, the memory of her mother. The second morning, Anna looked at a photograph, her and an older woman in a floral dress. Anna knew it was her mother. She knew she loved her. But when she tried to recall her facial features, her voice, there was only white noise in her head. She held the photograph, but the woman in it was a stranger, the memory of her profession. On the evening of the third day, she picked up her rifle. It was a Remington 700, her faithful companion. She knew how to disassemble and reassemble it with her eyes closed. But when she looked at it, it was a collection of metal parts. She forgot the function of the safety. She forgot how to aim. She was defenseless, the memory of love. She remembered she had a husband. She knew he was dead, but his name, the cause of his death, fire, helicopter, illness, all of it was deleted, as if someone had erased a file from her brain's hard drive. Anna started writing things down. She scribbled dozens of pages in her logbook. "I am Anna Gray. I am 58. I am a ranger in Denali. My dog's name is Coyote. I found a black stone. The stone is stealing my memory. I can't leave. I am very afraid. I must destroy the stone." This became her only truth. Every time the stone took a memory, Anna felt a physical reaction. The stone became heavier. She deliberately picked it up to check. It was nearly unbearably heavy, as if made of some unknown, ultra-dense material, and she became lighter. She conducted a desperate experiment. She stepped on the scale. Her weight was 8 pounds less than before finding the stone. An incredible, physically impossible drop in 2 days. Anna walked to the mirror. She looked pale, almost transparent. Her eyes were huge, dark holes. "It's not taking memories," she whispered in horror. "It's taking my being, my density. I am turning into snow." She had to destroy the stone. She grabbed the biggest sledgehammer. She placed the stone on an anvil and struck it with all her might. The hammer bounced off, and the stone remained perfectly whole. There wasn't even dust left on the stone's surface. Anna struck again and again, with despair, with madness, with animal rage. The stone did not react. But after the last strike, Anna saw a change. On the stone's perfectly smooth surface, right in its center, a light flickered. Not a reflection, its own light. A small, white, pulsating dot, like an eye that had just blinked. The stone was now watching. Anna couldn't deny it. It had no eyes, but Anna felt a gaze, cold and devoid of emotion, drilling into her. She tried to cover it with a blanket. In that same second, she forgot what a flashlight was for. She threw the blanket off. It became clear, if the stone couldn't see her, it would take anything it could reach, including basic, instinctive knowledge. Anna backed away from the table. Coyote stayed close to her, but he had stopped making sounds. He was mute, his eyes glued to the stone. Anna realized she had very little time left. She had to attempt the most difficult task, take the stone and throw it back into the tundra. She wrapped the stone in a thick layer of canvas, careful not to touch it, and put it in her backpack. The backpack was monstrously heavy. Anna, who had become nearly weightless, could barely lift it. She felt her light, hollow skeleton might crack. She went outside. The blizzard had weakened, but visibility was poor. She took a few steps and stopped. She had forgotten where her snowmobile was, not just where did I park it. She forgot the very concept of snowmobile. What kind of machine it was, what it looked like, how to drive it. She collapsed to her knees, the backpack with the stone hitting the ground, and cold pierced her through the canvas. Next to her in the mist, a whimper sounded. It was Coyote. She looked at him. Panic flashed in the dog's eyes, followed by recognition. He forgot her. He didn't recognize his owner. But he recognized the threat, the backpack with the stone. Coyote jerked back and, for the first time in 34 years, fled the trail into the tundra, leaving Anna alone with her burden. Anna was left alone, light, empty, stripped of memory and her only friend. She had to get rid of the stone. She picked up the backpack and, barely moving her legs, crawled into the tundra, away from the cabin. The stone was screaming in her head, not with sounds, but with cold and emptiness. Every remaining memory was torn out with a painful crunch. She forgot what cold was. Her body felt no pain or temperature. She forgot what gravity was. She felt like she was falling. She forgot her name. Anna Gray became just two empty sounds. She crawled. At one point, her hand hit a piece of ice. A memory flashed in her hand that ice was water. She grabbed it, her body instinctively trying to replace the stolen density. She continued to crawl, holding the piece of ice in one hand and the backpack in the other. Finally, she reached a spot that seemed far enough. She tore the canvas, her fingers now white as snow. She threw the stone. The stone fell into the snow with a heavy, dull thud. The impact was so strong that even Anna's light body felt the shockwave. Anna looked at the stone. It lay, black and perfect, and watched her. Her mind was clean, like freshly fallen snow. There was no fear, no memory, no name in it, nothing. But the stone was no longer perfect. On its absolutely smooth surface, a tiny, barely visible crack had appeared, and from that crack, a mist escaped. Thin, black, smelling of dust and old bones. Anna stood. She was absolutely empty, and then something returned. Not a memory, but a sensation, unbearable, all-consuming cold. This cold was her memories, which had now returned, but not to her brain, but to the stone. The stone was giving back its own. True cold. She slowly collapsed into the snow. Her light body settled like an empty shell. The last thing she saw was Coyote. He stood at the edge of visibility, looked at the stone, and then howled long, bitterly, like for the dead. A week later, when the storm cleared, a search party found Anna's outpost. Inside, they found absolute chaos. Logbooks filled with panicked handwriting, an anvil and a broken hammer, and a scale showing an incredibly low weight for an adult woman. They found Anna's body in the tundra, miles from the cabin. She lay on the snow, her body perfectly preserved, but incredibly light. When one of the rangers picked her up, he felt like he was holding an empty baptismal blanket. The cause of death was unclear, not hypothermia, not starvation. Her body was simply non-dense. Next to her, lying in the snow, was a perfectly smooth black oval. It was unbelievably heavy. The rangers, struggling to lift it, brought it back to base. They didn't know its true value, thinking it was some rare meteorite. Old Creek, hearing the news, simply shook his head. She broke the law. The Tundra gives nothing for free. She took density, and she paid with memory. The stone was sent to a university for analysis. Testing showed that the stone was composed of ordinary earth materials, but with an incredible, physically impossible density. It was absolutely black because its structure absorbed 99.9% of light. A month later, Dr. Clark, the geologist who led the stone's research, stopped answering calls. When they found him in the lab, he was sitting at his desk, his eyes empty. He couldn't recall his name, his job, or even the function of the chair he was sitting on. Next to him on the desk lay the stone. Now it had a second, barely visible crack. And it had become even heavier. They buried Clark. The stone was moved to an isolated, lead-lined bunker. But the law of the Tundra had been activated. They say if you stand for long enough in the part of Denali where Anna found the stone, you can see a figure, a ranger figure who never looks at you, but who is searching for something, searching for her density. Sometimes this figure dances light as a snowflake and nameless, and the stone waits. It collects density, one stolen memory at a time. It waits for its time to blossom and become what it was left there in the Tundra for.